Okay. Let's take a moment and do something to.
Hello, Patricia.
Hello.
How are you?
Well, now I'm getting nervous.
Yeah, I hope you are doing great and welcome to the Global Virtual Summit 2026. And before going to start your session, I want to introduce you to our audience, Patricia. Patricia Casper is an author, podcaster, and experienced professional with over 30 years in addictions, mental health, and child welfare. Through her company, Casper's FPSG Life Coaching and Training LLC, she provides professional development and coaching for parents and adults living with FASD. She holds advanced degrees in professional psychology and theology, graduated summa cum laude in social work, and produces multimedia educational content for her podcast, Living with FASD. That was a fantastic bio, Patricia. You have done a great job, and
Thank you.
the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, Melinda. Good afternoon. Let's take just a moment and do something together, if you will. I want you to think of your day so far, how it's been going between when you got up and now, and name 3 things that your brain did for you today between those times, between when you woke up and when you got here. If you want, you can answer in the chat. Don't feel obliged. But if you're like most people, the answer to my question that you would give me is going to be either a behavior or an activity, whether it's getting ready for the day, caring for others, or your morning commute. But my question had been, what did your brain do for you today that would make those activities possible? Brain tasks are like the computer code utilized to carry out a directive. They include planning, organizing, making predictions, processing abstract concepts, weighing options, using language, reading nonverbal cues, managing emotions, juggling sensory input, managing time and money, adapting to change, storing information into your memory and recalling it back again, just to name a few. If you struggle with any of those brain tasks that I just rattled off, how would your ability to carry out those 3 activities be impacted? For instance, if your brain was rewired such that memory and sequencing were impaired, how would that change your morning routines or your ability to perform your job? If abstract thought were difficult, how would that impact your ability to understand other people or follow directions, especially if the language that you speak every day is like English, full of idioms? What if you could not track time while you were focused on something, or if shifting between tasks was difficult? How would your day be affected? Would driving be difficult if you couldn't remember what the buttons and levers were, what the numbers on the gauges meant, or if you couldn't judge the speed of other cars? If you could not tolerate busy environments, noisy crowds, or tight seats, would flying to a conference such as this one be extra stressful? None of these challenges are visible, and a surprising number of people are unaware that they are neurodivergent. They know only that life seems to be easier for most other people. My name is Patty Casper, and I'm honored to be here today to talk with you about how fetal alcohol spectrum disorders and other neurodivergences may be affecting staff members with whom you work. Our time together and the Q&A are brief, so please put any questions into the chat, and Melinda or VJ will be keeping track of themes and will tell me what the most frequently asked question is, at the end when the Q&A starts. And if we don't read your question, if I don't answer your question, then use the QR code at the end to email me and I will get back to you. Okay, so what's my story? Well, for over 30 years, I've worked in addictions, mental health, and child welfare, as well as a hospice chaplain. And I began studying fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, or FASD, to better serve the children and families on my caseload. I came to realize that I too was affected by prenatal alcohol exposure. Suddenly, aspects of my life made sense in ways that they never had made sense before. I also quickly realized how few people understand this medical and neurodevelopmental condition, how very few people who are affected ever receive a diagnosis, and how many never realize that their lifelong struggles stem from this disability. So I come to you today not only as a professional serving the FASD community, but also as a woman whose own brain was shaped before birth by prenatal alcohol exposure. Slide 2, please. Can we advance the slide, please? Thank you. So this session focuses on women's leadership and neurodivergent employees. Many of the people that we supervise, mentor, and collaborate with live with invisible neurodevelopmental conditions, whether it's FASD, ADHD, autism, learning disabilities, and they're often undiagnosed. Slide 3. Thank you. Our leadership can either interpret those staff members' employee or behavior as a bad attitude or as a different kind of brain needing different kinds of support. The central question for us today is how can we as women leaders create workplaces where neurodivergent employees are understood, supported, and able to contribute their strengths rather than being shamed, disciplined, or quietly pushed out the door. You can take the slides down for now, please. So you may have a team members who are enthusiastic, relational, and creative, but also chronically late, inconsistent with deadlines and paperwork, or prone to becoming emotional. They may ace the interview but struggle with follow through. They may excel in crisis yet crash with routine, or vice versa. Many of these patterns are direct manifestations of invisible brain differences. With 1 in 4 women globally consuming alcohol and the unplanned pregnancy rate as high as 50% in a lot of places, it is a statistical fact that some of the women and men you lead were exposed to alcohol before birth. And they either don't realize it, or if they do, they don't realize that this exposure may have been harmful. But I thought alcohol was safe because it's legal. It's also a teratogen, or a substance that alters fetal development. Affected staff members may have high or average intelligence, strong verbal skills, and the best of intentions, yet seem unable to meet expectations in the manner or time frame that you need and that others expect. From your perspective, they look like they should be able to do what you need them to do, what everyone else does. But from their perspective, work can feel like running a phone with 10 open apps on 5% battery, or like driving a car with one foot pressing on the gas and the other foot mashing on the brake. There's a lot of effort, a lot of noise, with little forward motion. As women leaders, we sit at a powerful intersection. We can continue to read these patterns as character flaws, or we can begin to ask, what if there's a brain based reason why this person keeps hitting the same wall? At this point, you might be wondering, isn't FASD a childhood thing? What does that have to do with my workplace? Well, by the end of this session, you will see that FASD will absolutely show up in the workplace in time management and follow through, in response to feedback, in interpersonal dynamics, and many other possible ways as well. So let me lay the foundation for you. Fetal alcohol spectrum disorder is an umbrella term for the range of effects caused by prenatal alcohol exposure. FASD affects more people than autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and Tourette's all put together. In fact, in North America at this point, it is now 1 in 12 people. FASD is present wherever alcohol is consumed and in every strata of society. Now, alcohol chemically is a solvent. It dissolves lipids, and lipids form the protective barriers throughout our bodies. And yes, while a baby's liver is formed in the first month of pregnancy, it doesn't yet produce the enzymes for metabolizing alcohol until late in the 8th month. So alcohol lingers and continues to affect the baby long after it has left the mother's system. And during pregnancy, whatever is developing, no matter what the system in the body is, whatever is developing at the time of exposure is most vulnerable to cell death and alteration. Therefore, alcohol can affect any body system through its peak period of vulnerability as each structure is being formed or its functioning being programmed. The brain forms throughout the entire pregnancy, making it the most vulnerable. There's rapid cell replication and programming of the central nervous system throughout the pregnancy. So this leads to a great variance in how the brain is affected. I want you to picture an IED exploding within the baby's developing brain to grasp how random the injury potential is. Common brain effects are in the areas responsible for planning, organizing, remembering, controlling impulses, regulating emotions, understanding social cues, and a host of other functions. No two people are impacted the same way or to the same degrees. People with FASD grow up with very real physical differences in how their brains work, differences they did not choose and cannot conquer with willpower. These are lifelong neurodevelopmental changes. They are not just a phase, they are not just immaturity, and they are not simply bad habits. I started my career in addictions, and I used to tell my clients or remind my clients at that point that if you ate a bar of X-Lax, willpower would not keep you from the toilet. Because everybody tells them, just try harder. Willpower, that'll get you on the right path. No, it doesn't work. And willpower, motivation, or fear of consequences will not make injured neural circuits in the brain work the way others desire either. Now, most people have heard of FAS or fetal alcohol syndrome that has characteristic changes to facial features. FAS is the only aspect of FASD that is readily observable, but it's only 10% of cases within the FASD umbrella. Providers often tell parents, oh yeah, your kid definitely struggles with behavior, but it's not alcohol related because they don't have the face, right? So most cases of FASD remain hidden. And whether your staff members lives with FASD ADHD, autism, or other conditions, their differences are invisible because even those children who had the facial feature changes, you know, when we hit puberty, our faces begin to change. None of us are walking around with our baby faces. And so, for the most part, the signs that were there, the physical signs that were there, aren't there anymore. So, that's the kicker for those of us in leadership. The team members may present with average intelligence, strong verbal skills, and impressive passion, alongside chronic inconsistency and overwhelm. From the outside, they look like they should be able to meet your expectations, but from their perspective, tasks that others find simple can feel like trying to solve a puzzle that keeps rearranging itself. Remember that exercise that we did at the beginning of this talk with those 3 things that your brain did for you? Well, neurodivergent life can feel like trying to navigate New York City using a map of Toledo. It's a great map. It's very accurate, it's very useful, just not in New York City. If we don't know the history behind our staff members' their struggles, if we don't know why, if we don't know their history, the struggles that they're having with their map, we label their issues as attitude or disrespect or lack of commitment. However, if we see these struggles as possible signs of a differently wired brain, then we become compassionate. FASD rarely exists in a vacuum. Many people with FASD also live with other diagnoses or conditions. We call those comorbidities. ADHD and autism are common comorbidities, but they're also frequent misdiagnoses. Anxiety and depression are common, and they are the realistic and predictable outcomes of years of being blamed, shamed, and punished for things beyond one's control. Trauma is universal. The alcohol itself causes traumatic brain injury. And many people also experience environmental traumas. Perhaps it's an unstable home during childhood or time in the child welfare system. But there's also ongoing rejection and microaggression from peers and authority figures. Ponder this for a moment. Our 3 core needs as humans are to know that we matter, to feel heard or seen, understood, right? And to be able to make sense of the world and our place in it. If our needs are chronically unmet, and we in fact are chronically punished for our reflexive actions in the face of ongoing shame and pain, how will these 3 needs be met? Can they be met at all without our needs being supported? In addition, because alcohol has killed or altered the cells in whichever body system was exposed, there are 428 physical health issues affecting people with FASD to a statistically significant higher percentage than the general population. And these effects can affect digestion, sleep, pain, stamina, and many other areas of life. Without a neurodiversity lens, meaning the recognition that we are all different, people with these struggles are seen as brilliant but unreliable. However, with a neuro-informed lens, we might say brilliant but mismatched to how we've designed this role, this job, or the supports that we offer. Many neurodivergent staff develop self-talk like, I'm a mess. I know what I should do. Why can't I just do it? If I were really a good employee or a good person, I'd have my act together by now. When we as leaders reinforce that story, even unintentionally, we contribute to burnout, turnover, and sometimes self medication or self harm. However, when we help rewrite that story through how we respond, we can literally change someone's health and career trajectory. Now, a belief that has universal acceptance is called a paradigm. One example is the belief that behavior is always chosen and that the right mix of rewards and consequences will motivate someone to change any problem to behavior and start making the choices we need them to make. We see this behavior paradigm in parenting, in schools, in the justice system, and yes, in our workplaces. That model can work for some people in some situations, but it is a spectacular fail for neurodivergent brains. Because motivation will not repair or replace neurological changes, use of traditional treatment approaches generally causes more harm and trauma by reinforcing messages of failure and hopelessness. But take heart, paradigms can be replaced. How do I know this? Well, there was a time when we all believed the world was flat too, but we've managed to move past that one. Thank God. So, in this behavior model, when someone repeatedly misses deadlines or overreacts to things, we skip to judgments like they're slackers, they don't care, or they're just being difficult. A neuro-informed leadership lens moves us, though, to curiosity so we can begin to ask things like, what is this behavior telling me about this person's capacity and the way their brain is wired? What executive function demands or brain tasks, like we talked about at the beginning, are built into this role? Which parts of this job align with their strengths? And also, where might this person's brain be hitting a wall? What workarounds can we implement to create a better fit for task fulfillment? We also need to examine our own inner critic as leaders. If our own self talk is harsh, I should be able to fix this person, or I'm a bad manager because this keeps happening, we will react to that employee from a place of frustration instead of a place of curiosity and support. So, what can neuro-informed leadership look like on a day-to-day basis? Slide 4, please. Slide 4. Okay. Now, moving on. First, communication. Follow up important verbal instructions with clear, concise written summaries. Learning is multimodal. Some people learn better by hearing, others by reading, others through hands on practice. If learning is a stumbling block for a particular task, ask the employee how they might best learn that particular skill. Break big tasks into smaller steps with deadlines. Many people with FASD will remember only the first few steps or the last few steps if it's a long list. So provide just 2 or 3 steps at a time. Use checklists and visual cues instead of assuming people will hold everything in working memory. Many find flashcards helpful. Second, structure. Build in regular scheduled checkups rather than assuming staff will ask for help. Create predictable routines when possible, giving advance notice, especially wherever possible if there's going to be any changes. Now, time blindness is common among neurodivergent people, so more frequent cues about upcoming transitions can help. Clarify priorities. If you can only get 2 or 3 things done today, they need to be X and Y. Third, role design. Notice where a neurodivergent staff member shines. Is it crisis response or big picture thinking? Is it detail work or people skills? Is it hands on tasks or creative problem solving? Notice too where they consistently struggle. Could it be sequencing steps, remembering details, time management? Or might it be multi step paperwork or rapid switching between tasks? Adjust their roles where possible so that strengths are maximized and their vulnerabilities are mitigated. Sometimes that means pairing them with another colleague who has complementary strengths, or shifting the responsibilities between the two for a most effective partnership, or even changing the employee's role. This, oh, yes, thank you. This is not about making excuses for our employees. This is about aligning expectations with their actual capacity so that we can hold staff accountable in ways that are both fair and realistic for them. Fourth, emotional safety. Give feedback that is both specific and contextual. For instance, instead of saying, "You're disrespectful," very judgmental, right? Try, "In yesterday's meeting, you interrupted 3 times while other people were sharing." And then follow this with an offer of support, such as, "Why don't you try jotting down your thoughts until others are done speaking? That way, you will remember the gem you wanted to contribute, but were afraid you would forget. And your needs and theirs both will be met." Normalize tools, whether it's calendars, alarms, templates, noise reducing headphones, or short breaks. Encourage staff to say, "I'm overwhelmed and I need to reset," and have a clear plan for what that reset looks like, making it available to all staff. As leaders, we often need our own regulation tools. Before a difficult performance conversation, try a 30-second grounding practice. You can place a hand on your chest or on your lap if this is uncomfortable, taking a slow breath in and out. On the in breath, say "steady," and on the out breath, "I can listen." That small pause can shift the tone of the entire conversation. Again, this is not about lowering standards or making excuses. It's about building a different kind of ladder so that more people can realistically climb. And we need to remember that our concern for staff success outweighs our temporary concern about our own managerial performance, because we are no better than the team that we lead. Individual adjustments, important as they are, need culture, an effective team culture to make those adjustments sustainable. A neuro-affirming team culture will talk about mental health and brain differences without stigma. We'll treat accommodations or workarounds as normal, not as special favors. Trains managers and HR to recognize possible neurodevelopmental differences and respond constructively, and makes room for different work styles as long as core responsibilities are met, remembering that accommodations are all about altering the environment to enable people to work differently. As women leaders, we often set the relational tone for our team, and we model whether it's safe to say, to recognize our limits, to own them, to admit them, right? To enable them to say, "I struggle with this," or "I need help." When we lead with both clarity and compassion, we give others permission to be honest about their limits. I often say that questions are far more important than answers, and that insatiable curiosity is key to teamwork and also to productivity. Most neurodivergent people, tired of shame, learn early to put on a mask and spend enormous amounts of mental energy trying to appear normal, quote unquote normal. This is a survival strategy, but it consumes significant mental energy. Our brains weigh only 2-3% of our body weight, but they consume a minimum of 25% of our available energy. If we have altered neural pathways, that will dramatically increase the energy required just to get through mundane tasks, let alone a novel demand. So we need, as leaders, to learn to recognize mental fatigue and overwhelm in our staff members' nonverbal cues. We need to imagine a workplace where a staff member can say, I have ADHD, or I suspect I might have FASD. And the response is not, well, maybe this isn't the job for you. I've had that response. But the response could be, thank you for telling me. Let's look at how your role is set up and what might help. Stay curious about how best to support your team, diagnosed or not. Diagnostic rates of FASD are an abysmal 0.01%. And it's also true that adult diagnosis for autism and ADHD is common, especially for women. Without a diagnosis, accommodations are often purely intuitive. So your leadership can profoundly shape both workplace success and mental well-being. Not every role will fit every person, though, and we need to be honest about that. Sometimes the respectful decision is to recognize a persistent mismatch despite the accommodations that we put in place to get at better outcomes. Even then, when accommodations are ineffective or not possible, neuro-informed leadership can help someone leave with dignity and self-respect instead of additional shame. As we close, I want to return to 3 core ideas. First, some of the people you lead and some of the people in this room live with FASD and other invisible neurodevelopmental injuries. We did not choose our wiring and have had to navigate systems that never understood us. Second, how we as women leaders interpret and respond to behavior can either reinforce a lifetime of shame or open a pathway to sustainable contribution. Before we ask, what's wrong with you? We can learn to ask, what do you need to succeed? Third, neuro-informed leadership is not soft leadership. It is precise, it is curious, and it is deeply practical. It holds people accountable for what is within their control, and it adjusts or adapts the environment for what is not. So I want in this moment for you to think of an employee or a colleague who has long puzzled you or frustrated you. What happens if you imagine that their brain is running on a 5% battery or trying to move with one foot on the gas and the other on the brake? What might you do differently? What is one small change, whether in your expectations or the way you communicate or the team culture, that you can make in the next month to better support people who are wired differently? My hope is that you leave here not with the burden of fixing everyone, but with the vision that your leadership can transform your workplace into a place where neurodivergent staff are seen more clearly, supported more wisely, and valued more fully. One last thing, please hold up your index finger and look at your fingertip. Your fingerprint is not the only aspect of you that is unique. Your particular combination of strengths, challenges, and learning preferences is also unique to you, and the same is true for everyone else in your life. For whatever you do apart from this conference, thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening, for your willingness to reconsider the stories you tell yourself and your team about behavior and potential. And thank you for investing the time and energy so that you can do all that you do even more effectively. Slide 5, please. Thank you. To learn more about FASD, you can follow my podcast, Living with FASD, Candid Conversations with Patty Casper, on Apple, Audible, Rumble, Spotify, and YouTube. Or you can pick up a copy of my book, Sip by Sip, Candid Conversations with Adults Living with FASD, using the QR code here on the screen. Next slide, please. Okay, so there's 2 more QR codes. The top one is for my e-business card, and the bottom one is for my Calendly link if you would like to talk about further training for your workplace. Now, if the moderator, VJ or Melinda, can you please tell me if there were questions that came into the chat and what the most frequently question has been? Okay.
Yes, Patricia, that was a wonderful presentation. The concept you have taken, FASD, was very impactful concept. And we have
Thank
a
you.
lot of questions from the audience, Patricia. I want to ask you one.
Awesome.
Yeah. Uh,
Okay.
what strategies can leaders use to help employees manage stress at work?
Mm. That is a very good question. The first is asking them what they need to get reset, right? Do they need a 10-minute break in a quiet place? Or do they need to adapt their environment to lower the chronic stressors coming in? For instance, fluorescent lighting is a no-no for a lot of us, not only because of the unnatural light, but also because many of us have sensory differences. And so we can hear the humming of fluorescent light bulbs, and that can put us on edge and make us much more susceptible to stress that comes up at the day-to-day business. But giving those opportunities for short breaks to gather oneself and to regulate, just as I modeled, what you might do before a presentation where you deep breathing is often very powerful to help restore our sense of balance. And I know this from working with my own mother, whose brain differences are from dementia instead of FASD, but she's definitely now neurodivergent. I don't even tell her, just breathe, because even that, take a deep breath, is often triggering. I just do it, and she inevitably follows me into that deep breathing. So you could even try that. The other thing you can do is try and see if there are any patterns on things that become very stressful for that particular employee, and then figure out what you can do to accommodate this. Being proactive about routine stressors is your best strategy.
Excellent, excellent, Patricia.
Mhm.
And we have one more question from the audience.
Sure.
Uh, which findings from neuroscience have had the biggest impact on leadership practices?
Mm. I think the biggest thing with there is just realizing how common neurodivergences are. We often think of, we split the world into two categories: neurotypical, meaning everybody functions the right way, right, or normally, and then neurodivergent, meaning the brain's wired just a little bit differently. If you think of a bell curve, remember that from math class way back in the day where there was a bell curve? This very top 1% is neurotypical. If you think about it, everyone on either side is neurodivergent. So instead of setting up an environment where you make accommodations for one person, instead, we need to assume that there's a lot of neurodivergent staff in our office or whatever your work setting is, and just design things around that anticipation that not everyone is going to react to. It's just normal for people to think that everyone processes information the way we do. It's just human nature. We're very egocentric. And although we can say with our mind, everyone's different, it takes a lot of practice to set up, to jump from being judgmental into being insatiably curious, right? To exchange our righteous indignation for insatiable curiosity about what makes someone tick and how they function, how they learn best. And that's a big thing too, learning our staff, what makes them what makes them learn best. Are they readers? Are they listeners? Are they hands-on practice? And adjusting things that way, that will smooth a lot of things out. So I'd say that's probably one of the other big things out of the neuroscience, to realize that it's neurodivergence is everywhere. It's all around us. And not everyone, like I said, is affected the same way. No, I did a session on my podcast probably a month ago on communication differences and what's the same between FASD and autism, for instance, and how things can be so very different at the same time. So, um, yeah,
Thank you
do
for
we have,
answering, Patricia.
you're
We got
welcome.
the answer. And we have a few more questions. So we will
Sure.
directly post it to your email so you can respond there. And
Yes. So, everyone, please use the download that business card and email me, or you can just email me at contact@patriciacasper.com, and I will get back to you with some
yeah,
feedback on your questions.
thank you so much. And we hope to see you in our upcoming conference, which is happening in New York and USA. And thank you so much for your valuable time, Patricia.
Thank,
And
thank you
please,
for inviting me. I'm honored.
yeah, we are honored to. And please be on the backstage and join the next session, Patricia.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Bye bye.